Hello, everyone, and welcome to Lowering Costs, Raising Expectations in Chemistry using Alta and OpenStax. Thanks for joining us today. I'm John Britch, a marketing nerd at Knewton. So to preserve sound quality, you've entered this conference muted. If you have any questions during the session, please type them in the question box and we'll answer them during the Q&A segment. You can also use the chat function if you want to send me a message. This presentation will be recorded and we'll send you a link to the recording after the session. So during our 45-minute session, we'll cover what the Alta courseware is, how it can be especially useful in entry-level chemistry courses, as well as best practices for using it in a course. So joining us today to help answer these questions are Dr. Shawn Shields of Germanna Community College and Dr. Andrea Pellerito, one of our nerds at Knewton. So why don't we jump right in. Shawn, can you tell us more about yourself, your own background, and the students you teach?
Absolutely. Well, basically, I got my PhD in inorganic chemistry quite a while ago. And I've been teaching for 11 years. I teach general chemistry 1 and 2. I've been teaching that for the last 11 years. And then the last 4 years, I've been teaching organic chemistry lecture and lab 1 and 2. I teach at a community college in Fredericksburg, Virginia, which is about 50 miles south of Washington, D.C. We're considered part of the metro area. I'm department chair for sciences and really exciting. I've been faculty lead in 2 grants for development of 2 OER art associate's degrees in science and business. And so Germanna is now offering those. Students can take courses using all OER materials, which Knewton fits into that extremely well. Before coming to Germanna, I taught at Washington University in St. Louis, and that was for 5 years, and I taught Gen Chem there. So what about Germanna? Well, we are open access, so that means we take everybody. Doesn't matter how prepared they are. Our students are from rural and suburban backgrounds, and so they can be minimally prepared all the way to very prepared. A lot of those very prepared students have just come out of high school. Our popular programs include nursing, engineering, general studies, and then our science transfer associate's degree, which is designed to seamlessly transfer to the 4-year universities in Virginia. And as I mentioned, as of spring 2019, so that this coming spring, we have two full associate's degrees that you can use all OER materials. The 2 courses that I teach using Alta are Gen Chem 1 and Gen Chem 2, and these are just the classic general chemistry courses that you find all over the nation.
Okay, so let's jump into, we're going to talk more about how Alta works and Shawn's best practices, but why don't we start at the very beginning? Why did you choose Alta for your Gen Chem courses?
So, well, there are a couple of big reasons. One, the homework system, basically, which is what we use it for in the department, it needs to be aligned with the OpenStax textbook. So in other words, we didn't want to use publisher online homework, but we do need a solution for that so the students have extra practice. The low cost was extremely attractive, and then that adaptivity feature, I can give homework assignments of, basically covering certain learning objectives, and students who need more practice get a lot, they get more practice, more support, including boosters, without adding busy work for more prepared students, which can be frustrating for them. So the homework assignments they basically fit the student, what they need. Integrated in all of these lessons are videos with extra explanations, and so students can click on those, and that's in addition to the lecture videos that I prepare.
Super. So brings us to an important question, which is, what exactly is Alta? There are a number of homework systems and learning management systems available, so it'd be helpful to talk a little more about who Knewton is, who we are, and what distinguishes Alta from other kinds of courseware. So Andrea, can you tell us more about yourself, Knewton, and Alta?
I sure can, thanks. So A little bit of background about me. I am a chemist by training. I taught mainly organic chemistry, but college level chemistry for nearly a decade at Indiana University before I came into the technology and publishing world. When I left there a little more than 6 years ago, I went to a traditional publisher where we did book revisions. We had traditional online homework that closely mimicked end of chapter problems. We had an adaptive platform in there. And I really got to look at the other side of chemistry education, look at how materials were prepared for students. I worked both in chemistry and math, as well as a lot of different STEM disciplines as well. But it was a different perspective than what we do here at Knewton. Just about 6 or 7 months ago, rather, I came over to Knewton to become a nerd. And what motivated that change was really the platform that we have here, the resources that we have available to us, the accessibility for students, both in terms of platform features and affordability. I really wanted the opportunity to work on something that I knew was going to make a difference in student learning, in the way instructors were able to teach classes. So I truly believe in the mission of Knewton. I believe in the platform that we have here in Alta, and I've been working on developing content, expanding our content, and improving our content ever since. So that's kind of my background here at Knewton. I do want to talk a little bit about where Knewton has come from and where they're going as well. So our mission here at Knewton is, like I mentioned, really to make content accessible for students, but we do that in a way that empowers you, the instructor, to teach however you see fit. We provide you with data so that you know that you're teaching exactly where your students are. You can teach with confidence. The way we do that is by combining open educational resources, open source content, with our computer-driven adaptive learning technology. We have a fantastic engineering team, a really superb data science team. I'll talk about those in a minute. But they really enable us to deliver that content to the student in a truly adaptive way. So a little bit about Knewton. The company itself is almost 10 years old, but we launched our platform, Alta, just about a year ago. So it is a very new platform, and it's a new area for us in some ways. Prior to last year, we mainly partnered with big publication houses and provided adaptive platforms for them. As such, we have been able to invest over that 10-year period more than $100 million on that research that led into the adaptivity. We've worked with more than 15 million students. We have, you can read the numbers here, 28 billion recommendations. Really what this boils down to is that we have gained a lot of experience in the past iteration of Knewton, really figuring out how students learn, how they build connections between material, what they should be focused on, when they need extra remediation, and so forth. As I mentioned, just about a year ago, we changed our business model so that now we have this direct-to-student, all-inclusive platform. We call it Alta, but that's built on the research that we've done for so long. So more about Alta, like I said, it's an all-inclusive package for students and instructors. We have the adaptive capabilities, the course content. We partner with OpenStax. I think Shawn's going to talk a little bit more about her preference for OpenStax in a few minutes. But we're able to really keep prices low because we do use that open source content. So a lot of our instruction within the platform comes from OpenStax. We also have videos that were curated just for Alta. We partner with universities and a very small handful of trusted instructors to make those videos. We have people with content experience on our team, such as myself. We have several mathematicians and so forth on the team as well. So we're really able to build a lot of things in-house, but also have a trusted source that helps us curate content, helps us create new content. And then, like I said, we make sure that we keep costs to student low by using those open educational resources. One of the nice things about having an actual partnership with OpenStax is that we're able to use their content, obviously, but then we're also able to to direct where they're going with their content as well. We're able to push the envelope for them as they continue development in the future. So it really is a very nice partnership that I think benefits both sides of that equation. In addition to the content developers on the team, like I said, we have data scientists who have really helped us direct what we determine adaptive to mean. And you guys have undoubtedly heard of adaptive software, adaptive education. A lot of companies are using this term, but nearly every company uses it in a little bit of a different way. For some companies, this just means a very prescribed set of rules. If you get a question wrong, you'll be remediated back to a different question or set of questions. If you get a question right, there's an equation that allows you to skip some of the forthcoming questions. We define adaptivity very differently. Ours is very much an on-the-fly adaptivity, where every question that a student encounters is going to dictate what they see in the future, not just within the learning objective that they're working on, but throughout the curriculum as well. We don't have a pretest. We don't care what students knew 2 weeks ago. We care what they knew this morning, and create an experience unique for them based on their knowledge right when they're doing the assignment. So we are very unique in our definition of adaptivity in that regard. We want to make sure that we're helping the student, meeting them where they are right now today in their class, and we're able to do that successfully because of the research that our data scientists are able to do. So when we're talking about remediation in our chemistry course, we're able to remediate to other chemistry topics. You know, if they don't understand what's going on in chapter 7, we can give them a quick refresher of what they should have known from chapter 3. But we know in chemistry that's not always the root of the problem. We know that sometimes it's fundamental math skills that are causing their struggles within a general chemistry course. So we're actually able to remediate outside of the chemistry domain because of the way that we've built our product. We cover basically 4 main areas: chemistry, math, statistics, and economics. And we're able to pick and choose topics across all of those domains that are going to help your students build up that fundamental knowledge base that they need in order to be successful in chemistry. Obviously, there's not a lot of interaction between chemistry and economics in the course, but certainly we rely heavy on that math background to prepare students to be successful in your class and beyond. So let's take a quick look at exactly how that works. It is an adaptive system, but we have put together here a video of how a student would work through a particular assignment. And this assignment is on integrated rate laws, specifically looking at first order reactions. You can put more or fewer topics in an assignment, but that's what this exact assignment is. So as the student gets started, there's a little bit of background information about what we estimate that they're probably going to need to do to achieve mastery, to reach that benchmark that says that they understand this topic, not just that they can do isolated questions, but that they understand the topic as a whole. So there's a little bit of background information on exactly what that's likely to mean for them. But as soon as the student gets into the assignment, they're able to either choose to read, and if they click on that view related information button down towards the bottom of the screen, they'll see what essentially looks like an OpenStax page. Most students we know don't often opt to read first. They jump right into the questions. So we give the student the option to do whichever of those they want to do or that they have success in doing in the past. So let's just hit play here and we'll jump into that student and see what that experience actually looks like from the learner perspective. Oh, can we go back and hit the play button there? There we go. So student is starting their assignment. First thing that's going to happen is they're shown a problem. This one is a little bit conceptual in nature. Just make sure that we know what some of those terms mean. Whether they get the question right or wrong, they're going to see an explanation so that they understand what it is they're answering. Student got that one right and goes into a numeric question, a calculation. Struggles with this one, but for numeric answers, we always give the student a second try. You know, maybe they were experimenting, maybe they just weren't completely sure, but I did get both of these wrong. I'll then see another question, not directly related to the first one, but certainly having to do with the same topic. And again, as you can see here, I, as a student, am still struggling with this topic. The system knows that I'm struggling. I've gotten a couple questions wrong in a row, so it's going to show me some instruction. This is right when I, the learner, need instruction. And we have both written instruction and videos here that the student can interact with. In this case, I saw a video. But regardless of that mode of instruction, we're always going to give the student a question to make sure that they understand what they saw or what they read. After seeing that, I'm going to go back into some questions. Again, you can see here that I'm struggling with these. I'm still not able to do these calculation-based questions. So the system is going to make another diagnosis for me. Now it's going to remediate me. And I'm not seeing questions directly related to first order reactions here, but more on order of reaction in general and rate constants. I'll see questions, I'll see instruction, but since I'm struggling in my required topic, I'm going to be remediated back to some prereqs to make sure I have that fundamental knowledge. And again, you can see as we follow the student through this that I'm getting some questions right. Those tend to be more conceptual in nature. My calculations, I'm still struggling with. I'm still getting that feedback. I'm getting instruction. But since the system can detect that I'm mainly getting calculations wrong, it's going to give me this little timeout and say, why don't you review the math? And in this case, the questions that I was getting wrong all had to do with natural logs. So Alta is going to take me out of my assignment, put me in what we call a math booster, where it reviews a college algebra topic, some lower level math, in this case, natural logs. Because I could stay in my assignment all day, but if I don't understand natural logs, I'm never going to really understand what those calculations that I should be doing mean, never really going to be proficient in that topic. Even if I can mimic the math, I'm not going to develop an understanding until I get those math prereqs done. So I'm outside of my assignment. I'm doing this optional math booster. I've built up that knowledge set so that I understand the fundamental math. I was already doing well on the conceptual parts and on the prereqs. Now I'm able to jump in, successfully do some calculations, and fast forward through a few more problems. I'll be able to successfully complete that assignment and move on in the course and be able to apply this to different situations. So in a quick little 3 minutes, that's kind of the student experience of how we establish what the student knows, establish what they need help with, both within the chemistry domain and fundamental math skills in order to build up that knowledge base to ultimately be successful in the topic. So quick and fast, but certainly we can set up calls for more detailed explanations if you guys want some more information there. I've referred to our data science team a few times, but really they're the ones who are collecting data, both for individual accounts and globally, so that we can really understand where students struggle, why they struggle, if the instruction that we put in is helping students to be successful, if the boosters are really getting students towards mastery, proficiency. So my content creation team works very, very closely with the data science team. Every decision I make for revisions, or most of the decisions I make, are really rooted in the data that's being collected there. Because of that, we don't have to wait 3 or 4 years for an actual new edition or revision to come out. As I collect user information, whether it's from the direct student feedback button on each page in Alta, or it's through studies that I'm doing in collaboration with the data science team, or data that they're collecting on their own, all of that allows me to make some real-time improvements to the content. I'm able to see right away that a student is struggling, or a group of students, or most students are struggling on a particular topic, and I can go in and make some adjustments to that, add extra instruction, add better answer explanations, whatever the case may be, based on actual real student usage. So what does some of that data actually look like? We do, like I mentioned, a lot of different kinds of studies here at Knewton. And one of the fundamental studies that we've done is look at what happens when students use Alta overall. And what we see is 87% of the time, a student is able to reach mastery. They're able to reach that benchmark to demonstrate proficiency on an assignment. We also have defined internally what we consider to be a struggling student as opposed to a well-prepared student, right? So struggling students, those who may not have had the same prereqs, maybe they took high school chemistry a number of years ago, maybe we can tell from data that they're not proficient in those fundamental math skills. We look at their initial performance, put them internally into this category that we call struggling students. That's not a name we surface to students, certainly, but we separately track what those students are doing in Alta. So even those students who we identify as sort of at risk based on their initial experiences, 82% of the time they're able to achieve mastery because of this remediation that we're able to apply to them. These are the students that in a traditional homework system are probably not going to finish the assignment, or those grades aren't going to translate to success in the class, right? So we're able to see success for all students, but particularly in that group of students who are most at risk, those struggling students, we do see high levels of success for them as well. We didn't stop studying there, however. We also looked at what happens when a student is considered to be proficient or achieve mastery on a particular learning objective. It's great that they made it through the assignment more than 80% of the time. That's important. It's helpful in the class. It's helpful in their preparation for their exams. It's not enough, though. We looked at what happened when students were taking a quiz within our Alta system. So they're seeing several learning objectives. They're seeing them out of context. They don't have those help or read about it types of buttons associated with it. It really is a quiz environment. So for all students who took these quizzes, students go from quiz scores of 55% for students who did not finish their Alta assignments to 81% for those that did. First question that comes to my mind is maybe that is related more to the motivation of the student who doesn't do their mastery-based homework than actual achievements that come from it. We certainly looked into that as well to see if it was actually Alta that was making the difference for these students, or if it was some other factor intrinsic to the student themselves. So we looked at a few things. First of those, we looked at the struggling students. And for struggling students who did not complete mastery, so they did some part of the assignment but not all of it, they were typically getting an average of 40% on their quizzes. Those who did achieve mastery bumped all the way up to 78%. So a really big difference in those quiz scores for those struggling students. So at least for the subset of students in there that are working towards mastery, we do see a big difference in the quiz scores, actually for all levels of students. Most notably, this purple line, the bottom line here, are those struggling students. Those are the students that have the biggest increase, the most steep slope within their cohort, or compared to their cohorts that didn't finish the Alta assignments. So that's indicative that for students who complete the assignments, it is helping. They're able to reach that mastery level, which does translate to quiz scores. More importantly than that, though, we want to see how this translates throughout the course. So if a student has had to spend quite a bit of time remediating in a Chapter 1, a Chapter 3 assignment, we want to make sure that that remediation is not only helping them on the assignment that's due Tuesday at 2 o'clock, but that's going to translate to success throughout the class. So we actually track that for students who were put into these three buckets. Again, purple here are the struggling students, those who needed the most help, the most remediation. Green in the middle are the average students, and the advanced students are those who needed very little remediation. We tracked how many questions or how long they spent on an assignment early in the class, and how that time on task actually was able to decrease throughout the task. As they built up their fundamental skill sets, as they built up those those learning objectives in the first chapters of chemistry that obviously are going to be used throughout the course, what we saw was that there was a decrease in time spent on LOs as they moved forward. So for those struggling students in particular, they spent an average of a little more than 40% less time on advanced LOs than they did at the beginning of class. All students showed a decrease in the time, but particularly importantly for those struggling students, as they did build up their skill sets and their confidence, they were able to spend less time moving forward. So like you can see here, we keep digging deeper and deeper and deeper into the data to make sure that students aren't just finishing an assignment. That's great, but it needs to translate to actual grades. And it's wonderful that they're doing well on tests and quizzes, having completed the Alta assignment. But what's more impactful for me as an educator is that they're able to take those lessons learned in those chapters, in those assignments, both the LO that's on topic, prerequisites to that, and the fundamental math topics, take those and apply those to later situations. That's what's most impactful for me as an instructor. So we've done a ton of different kinds of studies. These are just a couple of them that I've summarized here. We also love to work with individual institutions and instructors, look at how students are interacting with the system, look at data for that institution or individual class, help you, the instructor, formulate your own studies. You know, don't take our word for it. Actually look at your own students' data and make decisions going forward based on that. So I think Shawn is going to show us how she tackled that, what she actually looked at to determine what success looks like for her and her students.
Super. So now we turn it over to Shawn to talk about Alta in practice. How to use Alta and OpenStax.
Okay. Thanks, Andrea. That was awesome. Very interesting. I'd love to get in on that virtuous cycle of mastery study. I'd like to see how my students are doing that way too.
You can make that happen.
So as far as how I use Alta, actually our whole department uses Alta in our general chemistry courses. So we've ended up having all of the full-time faculty and then training the adjunct faculty also. Our coursework is either fully online, just a couple of sections. Those are ones that I teach specifically, and then lots and lots of in-person general chemistry 1 and 2 courses. Our students attend lecture, or in my case, watch recorded videos that I've made, and also complete readings from the OpenStax general chemistry text. And they do all of their homework in Alta. And it's actually very important to assign a significant amount of the grade to the homework so that they actually do it. And we're basically saying, look, this is really important. You should spend some time doing this. And the grade reflects that. In my courses and across the department in general, most of us have 3 regular exams, worth about 30%. The final exam worth a bit more at 20%, and then some assortment of labs and guided inquiry POGIL activities that comprise the last quarter of the course approximately. And all of us use the OpenStax textbook in conjunction with Alta. So how can you use it specifically? Now, each of us have learning objectives for our course, and we can turn on or hide the ones that we want, and we want those to align with the syllabus, of course. All of the assignments that we put together, we can preview as a student. So, click that button and then take a look at what the student is going to see. All of the homework assignments from each chapter are turned on. In our case, that's across the whole department also. We found that works well. Each chapter has from about 4 to 9 homework assignments, depending on the length of the chapter. So for instance, chapter 6 in the OpenStax textbook covers all of the quantum plus periodic trends and everything in between. And so there ends up being 9 homework assignments for that. But within each of those, there's 1 to 3 learning objectives that you can turn on or off, within that assignment based on what you want to actually cover in your course. So this is basically the little dashboard. Now, again, this is an online course, and it basically just gives me a quick snapshot of what the students are doing. And it's pretty much one of the first screens that comes up when I open up my course. And so I have a quick way to tell, who's active, who's not active. This is late in the semester, so I just barely pulled this one a couple of days ago. And you can see that the mastery, 14 of the students are above 90%. There's some that are struggling. And then those ones that are below 60% are essentially students who enrolled in the course and then before the withdrawal deadline, they withdrew. Again, online courses can be a little bit tough that way for students who aren't good at managing time management. So even with reminders and things like that, they tend to drop as we go through. But you can see here that above 90% is a very significant number of the students. These students that are 60 to 90%, they're the ones that I really focus on. So I'll get emails about struggling, and I'll watch them and send them emails with extra support, ask how they're doing, and then make suggestions. So next slide, please. This is the midterm report, and Knewton sends these to all instructors. And in our department, we all get everybody's midterm report. So it's actually very interesting to see. And so in my case, I want the students to watch the lecture videos before and do some of the reading before they begin the Alta. Since they are online, they're distance learning, it's a little less personalized, shall we say, because there's not the face-to-face interaction. So I want them to have the videos that I put together and like they would be in class, and get that instructor interaction and then begin the Alta. And so this gives me a way to see, are they generally doing that? The pink here is I think that is unfamiliar. And then, so you can see here, averagely familiar here. So it also allows me to give database suggestions to students who are concerned about assignment times. So for instance, if they send an email and say, wow, Dr. Shields, this is taking a really long time. It's like, are you watching the lecture videos, and doing the reading? If not, do that. And then other times it comes to, are you doing those math boosters as they come along? Because sometimes they don't see the importance, but after doing them, they definitely see the importance of doing those boosters. All right, so another nice feature, and this is a general chemistry 2. You get emails automatically also through Knewton, and it gives information about what learning objectives students are struggling on. So in this case, there actually aren't very many struggling with this particular topic, and I delete these in past time, so I don't have one, but certain chapters, especially kinetics, for instance, I'll have 4 or 5 struggling on certain learning objectives. And again, I can reach out to those students personally. I can suggest, additional video resources, and also, again, kind of encourage those boosters as they come along for those students. So it gives me a chance to really monitor how they're doing. And it alerts me because I'm sure you guys all know we're all busy, and it's easy to lose track of very specific students. And so when I get an email, it's like, oh yeah, let me go in and look and see how everybody's doing. Individual student reports, I love these. It gives me basically a snapshot of what's going on. Now, the total work time is given there, and that's for basically the course up to this point. Tells me when they were last active. Some students will do all of their homework in a week, in a weekend, and then take time off. Others will do a little bit at a time. This student is more of a chunk worker, but you can see that it gives you the assignment mastery, and that's going to be, again, over all of the assignments. And quizzes, I don't generally give the quiz format, mainly because it's just on one learning objective. So even quizzes would be considered tests in Knewton. And that exam score, I looked through all of my data, and at first I was a little disturbed. So like, wow, that's really low, because I hadn't been noticing that in my grade book. But it turns out that's the average of all 4 exams, and 2 of them have not happened yet. And so and it also so anyway, so it just gives you information on those average test scores. I tend to look at that on a little bit more granular level. Like I said, I would be very interested eventually in getting some information about how homework assignments are speeding up for students as we go along. As far as Knewton Support, this is their support is the best. I mean, when I log into Knewton, there's the chat box. You can see it at the bottom with the smiley face. And basically, if I run into any kind of issue at all, I can press the chat box and type a question, and somebody's there. And they'll, certain times there's a quick, here's the answer, here's a handout that you can use to do whatever thing I was trying to do. In the beginning, it was LMS integration with Blackboard, which can be challenging. Luckily, we're going to Canvas. And then other times, it takes a little longer, and so because a little bit, something a little bit more challenging, and then I'll just get a note that says, hey, I'm working on that. Stay tuned, and it doesn't take very long, and then they're back. And I think one of the nice things about that support is that they, at Knewton, they have access to other departments, and so they're not isolated. They can go and work with whoever they need to answer the question. As department chair, one of the things that I love is that they train the new faculty on Knewton. And so I don't sit down and do that myself, and I wouldn't do as good a job. And so I think that it's fantastic on all levels for both the faculty that are learning to use Knewton, and then also from a time standpoint for me. The LMS integration, like I say, Blackboard is the most challenging. I've heard from colleagues who use Knewton that use Knewton and Canvas that's very, very easy. And like I say, we're going to Canvas this spring, so I'm looking forward to that.
Super. Thank you so much, Shawn. So now we're going to open it up to questions. We have several minutes left, and let's open it up for questions. If you have questions, please use the question bar and type them in, and we'll answer them for you. Don't be shy.
Virtual crickets.
Okay, I'm not seeing any questions. If a question comes to you after this session, then I'm going to be sending you an email with a link to the recording for this session. So definitely feel free to just hit reply to that email if you want a demo, if you want access to an instructor preview account, and if you have any questions. So thank you so much, Andrea and Shawn, and thank you for everyone who attended today. Take care. Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.